be honest, I want to be the globally known sales, training and recruitment company for the AI industry.
I always say selling to rich people is you're selling the opportunity for them to save time and make more money whilst doing less.
I find that with salespeople, like, people either believe that they are like God's gift at sales, or they think that they're just terrible at sales and it's just naturally not meant for them. And those kind of people that are already doing well are the people that are always like open to training. They're like, they have that mindset, what is called the white belt mentality of like, I can always get better.
Yeah, they're coachable.
They're coachable, yeah. They're like, they can understand like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be selling, high ticket AI solutions, which I've never done, therefore I'm open to training. And it's always those guys that are at like 5, 10K a month that are like, oh no, I don't need that. A B2B buyer has to logically see why this would work before they move into the emotional state. Unlike a B2C prospect who might just get all giddy and emotional and then just buy, and then they'll justify it later with logic. Because selling courses is just such a good business model. Like, it is. It's such a good business. If you can predictably sell a high ticket course, like, that's heaven. There's always something more to learn and improve on. So yeah, just think big, work hard, and the rest will take care of itself.
Scott, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Great to have you, man.
Good to see you.
So for the people who don't know who you are, introduce yourself, let them know that you're a top closer, you're a big boy.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, my name's Scott Parsons. So I've been in sales for a long time now. Yeah, since I was 18 years old. So it depends how deep we want to go. But, I was in like kind of traditional sales roles for long time, 10 years plus, and then came across high ticket sales, which frankly just, changed my life. So I originally started out, I was closing for an agency, was my first closing role. And then from there, I moved into Charlie Morgan's team. That's where I spent the bulk of my kind of closing career. Did pretty well there, humbly speaking, of course. And then, that through a series of events, that led me on to create my own company. But that led me to create my own sales training and recruitment company. Started out as the classic, teach people how to close, get them placed into a role. Through a series of events, I had a couple of clients absolutely just smash it in AI businesses. I'm talking like complete beginners do like $7,000 in a week commission, like in their first month. It was just crazy. And it just kept happening and happening. So through a series of events, I just kept, very organically getting more and more deeper into AI, meeting more AI founders, and eventually came to the realization that this is one of the greatest opportunities from a salesperson's perspective of our lifetime, in my opinion. So we actually pivoted our full focus to purely helping salespeople to close for AI businesses. We get them placed into a role through our done for you recruiting system, get them trained so they can confidently close deals. Yeah, and we're flying at the moment. So anything from there
wicked, man.
That's a high level.
That was a good introduction, man. I mean, everybody watching, everybody thinking, okay, we know exactly what this guy does. We know he's a sales guy. Let's just go back to Charlie Morgan, and then we'll dive into, how you got into sales in the first place. But Charlie Morgan's a big guy in the space, man.
He is.
How the hell did you even land that offer?
That's a super interesting one. So I'll tell you the story. So my background, before getting into high ticket sales closing, I was the manager of a sales team for an independent chain of gyms.
Right.
Okay. So gyms based in the Southeast, but essentially what happened was, I was managing the sales team, doing really, really well. And then one day I had a cold call from this guy. And naturally, as anybody that, runs gyms knows, you get a lot of cold calls, people trying to sell you agency services, gym equipment, you name it, you get a lot of cold calls throughout the day. But this one particular day, I'm sat next to the phone, rings, pick it up, and it's a cold caller. But something was different about this person. He was just very good, very good sales skill, very articulate. And I was just really, really impressed. And then when I later found out his age at the time, I was even more impressed. I was like, this is crazy. This guy's going to go far. That person was Charlie Morgan. This is back.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. This is back when he was running his agency Northflow, which is obviously an agency helping gyms. So like I said, I was extremely impressed by him, especially when I heard his age at the time. I can't remember what he was. He might have been 17, 18, something like that at the time. So impressed. And I was thinking in my head, I'm I got to stay in contact with this guy. He's going to go very, very far.
Sure.
And I was right about that. But so essentially me and Charlie, we just built a good relationship. We, from that cold call, we exchanged numbers. We would throughout, and then this is, through years really, I carried on doing my thing, running the sales team of gyms. And Charlie and I just kept in contact every so often, nothing crazy, but just every so often, just a little text, checking in kind of thing. Obviously he went on to do what he did, and I was following his journey throughout, right from the very, very beginning days of YouTube when he had you know, I don't know, under 10,000 subscribers. So we always stayed in contact. And then through a series of events, like I said, I found out about high ticket sales. I started closing for an agency and I did very, very well at that agency. Like I said, it was my first ever proper closing role. You know, for example, so at that company, which by the way are a company called Fitness Marketing Agency, FMA, they're like a direct competitor of Alex Hormozi. Yeah. So arguably one of the biggest agency for gyms in the world, certainly the biggest in Europe. In my first month there, I set the record for the most units anybody's ever sold in their first month, which was around about 20 units, which was near the all-time record anyway in my very first month. So converting about 40 to 50%, a lot of it cold traffic as well. So did very, very well there. And so during this same time, I obviously had been watching Charlie's journey. Like I said, Charlie and me always had a good relationship throughout the years. And I made it a plan in my head that I was going to go and close for Charlie Morgan. But I thought to myself, right, let me just get really fucking good at this. Like first, let me again carry on smashing it, setting records for this agency, and then I'll line up Charlie. Because I was confident that, again, by the nature of the relationship that I and Charlie had, I was confident that I could get a closing role there. I could show him all this social proof and the numbers that I was doing in the agency. But I thought, right, let me be patient. Let me stick here. Let me get really fucking good at this so that I know that as soon as I come into Charlie's team, I can just smash it straight out the gate. So that's what I did. So yeah, just carried on enhancing my skill set, bought a couple of programs, carried on again, setting records and stuff like that at the agency. And lo and behold, my plan eventually came to fruition. So one day I reached out to Charlie, sent him a text, just said what my intentions were. I
should have cold called him.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So yeah, I sent him a text and just basically said what kind of numbers I was doing at the agency. I sent him, a bunch of screenshots and things like that. He didn't respond initially, but as any seasoned salesperson does, you of course follow up.
Yeah.
So I think it only took me 2 follow-ups and he got back to me and he was, super, super keen. We didn't even have an interview. He was just, like I said, we built a good trustful relationship throughout those years. And like I said, I sent him a lot of social proof. I basically sent him a Loom video pitching him why I think I would be a great closer for him,
right.
Which included, again, social proof, some of my numbers at the agency. I showed him at the time, I recorded over my YouTube, my personal YouTube, where under my subscriptions, I said, look, I'm subscribed to you. I know your brand. I know your market. Look at these numbers.
Get that personalization dialed.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, so I think it only took me 2 follow-ups for him to respond. But I had in my mind, I was like, I will legitimately text him every week for the next year, probably longer, probably 2-3 years. And that's how you've really got to be. Like, if you've got a specific company in mind that you want to sell for, you just need to have it in your mind, like, they haven't got a choice. They're either going to tell me to, politely fuck off, or they're going to give me, or they're going to at least give me an interview.
Taking that no for an answer.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it's just so simple in my opinion to get a really good closing role. It's like, have your kind of target companies, kind of 20 to 50 companies that you'd like to sell for, your targets, if you will, your lead list, and then you follow up with them forever. And you send personalized messages to them, just as you would in a sales process. You pitch them on why you'd be a good closer there, and you never stop. If somebody does that, it's incredibly easy. And actually on my YouTube channel, I give guys a process. I give them an outbound process because you can automate this as well. You can set up, say, 30 to 50 messages to a company, put it all into Instantly or whatever sending software that you want, and just have that thing fire out automated messages every single week for an entire year to the company, pitching yourself as wanting to work there. And something will come of it. That's just a fact. Obviously, if anybody's like working as a client with us, we do all this for them. We do done for you recruiting. But even if somebody's not a client, it's really as simple to land a good closing role. Like, that's a tangent anyway. The point is, I was prepared to follow up with Charlie for life, essentially.
Well, bloody paid off.
Yeah, exactly.
And both for you as well.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like I said, luckily he got back to me after the second, and it was all pretty smooth from there. Like I said, we didn't even have an interview. I don't think that's typical of what Charlie would do, but again, we'd already built a good relationship. I think he knew my kind of sales ability and he trusted that. So yeah. And then around 6 weeks later, onboarding into the company. So I'll kind of pause there for a second. Anything else you want to know, I'll obviously.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I mean, you just dropped some serious gems there. So appreciate you diving into that, man. So let's now dive into, like, he cold called you, right? Mm-hmm. And what was that cold call about? Because I know that you're working for the gyms. Did he want you to pass him on to like the owner, the CEO of the gym? How did that go about? Because how did you even get his contact? First of all, like, because he's obviously cold called the gym and you're working for the gym. So I'm thinking, did you just note it down and think, I'm taking his number, or did you ask him?
Do you know what? I think at the time we exchanged numbers. I said to him, listen, drop me a message on WhatsApp and we'll talk, basically. We never actually bought from him. But I was the annoying gatekeeper, basically, because like I said, I was the sales manager. So, and at the time it was an independent chain of gyms. So like, although my title was technically sales manager and I was running a sales team, I was also heavily involved a lot in the marketing as well. So that would have been a decision that I had a big influence on because Charlie was pitching marketing services essentially. But yeah, I was the annoying gatekeeper. So I can't remember exactly what words were said, but I know that we exchanged numbers. At the time, I mean, I've seen Charlie's journey from essentially the very, very beginning. I think that when he originally made that cold call, he was at under 10K a month. And obviously, look what he's doing now, crazy numbers, tens of millions. But yeah, I don't remember specifically. I think we just, exchanged numbers. We kept in contact over the years. I would always drop him a text every so often, how's things going? And every time I did check in, every couple of months or every 6 months, it was always like, now I'm at 50K a month. And 6 months later, now I'm at 100K a month. And and I'm seeing this all unfold. And then obviously everything, and then he went on to build Imperium and like I said, make tens of millions of dollars. And it's been really, really cool to see that journey from the very beginning unfold essentially. But yeah, when he first made that cold call, he was at, I believe, under like 10K a month, which was just crazy to watch.
No, his growth has just been crazy. He's just gone whoosh, literally. Yeah. Cool, man. So you're in Easy Grow now.
Yeah.
Talk to me. It's different to obviously selling fitness and coaching services, right? So
absolutely.
What was that change like for you? Because this was like your first established like high ticket offer, would you say?
It was, yeah. So the closing role that I had before, when going into it, I had never known anything about high ticket sales. And it was a closing role, but it was a little bit more traditional. It was like, we went into an office and just a little bit more, like a 9 to 5, a bit different to kind of the traditional remote high ticket sales offers. So I would say that closing for Charlie was my first like proper closing role.
Yeah.
And you're right, it was very different to selling B2C fitness, which is what I'd done in the past. Even very different to selling agency services. At that time, Charlie's marketing was very heavily focused on agency owners. And I know he still does that now, but I think it's broadened out a little bit into like coaches, consultants and that whole market. But I think he liked that I'd closed for an agent I knew one of the biggest
game basically.
Exactly. I knew the game, one of the biggest agencies in Europe. I knew their processes inside out. And I think that he liked that. But yeah, Charlie's was my first proper closing role. And you're right. It's very, very different to selling low ticket fitness, even different to selling B2B agency services. And it's interesting actually. So interesting how things play out. So my first month in Charlie's offer, I did terrible, like legitimately.
We know about that.
Yeah. I did terrible to the point where the manager at the time, he's not the sales manager anymore, but the sales manager at the time basically sat me down and was just like, hey, in other words, in polite words, he was like, you need to get your numbers up or you're off basically. I later came to find out that this was like months, if not years later, I came to find out that the sales manager actually was like, let's get rid of him. And Charlie was like, no, he's got potential. And Charlie basically fought the case for me to stay. And he was right because my first month was terrible, but every month after that just started building. And then I'd say from probably my third month, I was like, boom, top of the leaderboard and remained there for pretty much the entirety of the rest of my time there. So yeah, it's just so funny looking back, like, so many things, it's called the butterfly effect, right? It's like, what would have happened because like closing at Charlie's changed my life in the sense of like, it took my income to a whole new level. The things that I learned, I was in ways directly mentored by Charlie there. I learned so much from him, which is obviously carried on into my life now as a business owner. And it's just funny to think like, again, closing at Charlie's changed my life. And what about if that day that Charlie cold called, what about if
you didn't pick up the phone?
What about if I never picked up the phone?
Someone else.
Yeah.
You would have never have been introduced to Charlie and there would be no Easy Grow, there would be no story.
100%. It's so interesting. Like, what would have happened? Yeah, if I wasn't at the phone that time or somebody else picked it up or I just did the reflex response of like, no, not interested, boom, put the phone down. Like all of these things. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, sorry, Matt, I forgot the question.
It's cool, man. I know we've got so much to unfold. So yeah. So during that first month, right? So you've come into Easy Grow. You said that you didn't do well and you were struggling, and then after that you just sort of compounded and then you just found your feet, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think was that one thing, or even a few things, that were making it difficult for you in those first 30 days? I know it's a new offer, it's a new product, but like you had experience with like how the agency game works. You understood like Charlie's systems and his processes. Like, what do you think really, made the difference between you being like a top closer at like FMA, for example, and then coming into this and struggling?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think like you said, I wouldn't say it's necessarily one thing, but it's a multitude of things. So what's actually interesting is that So I closed my very, very first call booking for Charlie. I just closed it. And I was like, and obviously naturally in my head at that time, again, I closed the very first call. Everyone on the sales team's like, what the fuck? Because like, I think Charlie had kind of hyped me up coming into this, because obviously it's good to create competition amongst closers. He said, listen, this guy Scott's coming in, he's a killer. And then I closed my first call, and that's obviously validation for everybody. Like, oh shit, he is. Like, but then it just spiraled down from there. Like,
beginner's luck. You just come in and everyone's thinking, who's this guy? And
exactly. Yeah, exactly right. And then I think I went like 2 weeks or so without closing the deal. But anyways, so, but yeah, you know what I guess, like I said, it's a multitude of things really. I think that there's something to be said for, I have to be careful how I word this, but there's something to be said for not trying in a weird way. Like, because I had been doing different sales roles throughout my entire life. I feel like, I naturally had it down. I unconsciously understood like why people buy and how to sell things. And obviously as I progressed throughout my career, I kind of, put it down on paper and really reverse engineer why I was successful and why I was able to do it so that I can teach others. But at that time I was just like, again, I just felt like I unconsciously knew what to do. And coming into Charlie's, because this is the first time in my life that I'm seeing other people around me, like other guys on the team doing like 15, 20, 25 grand a month.
It's all new to you.
Yeah. It's new. And like, and then I think again, like most of my kind of sales process in the past had always been fairly effortless. I'd always genuinely enjoyed being on sales calls and just had fun with it. Always found sales enjoyable and fun. But Charlie's, I think looking back, like that first month was the first time where I was like, oh shit, I can make like 20 grand a month here. Let me take this really seriously.
And do you think that probably played a part into you not doing well? Like I think trying too hard.
Exactly. There is a point where like, again, you have to be careful where you word it, because you still have to put in work, and that's always important. But like, there's something about mentally like really trying, and like you kind of get like uptight and like
focusing on the right things.
Yeah. And I think that was my problem back then. Again, I'm so like trying so much that I believe it actually held me back in a way. Whereas I feel like what I did eventually do was just like let go, trust myself and my process, relax. That manifests as you easing up on the call. The prospect can feel it. Energy transfer is very, very real. Like, big time. So real. Like how you internally feel in the state that you're in will rub off onto the other person. That's just facts. And I feel like in that first month, again, because it's the first time where I'm really seeing like, oh, I can make life-changing money here. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm taking it too serious. There's too much tension within me, and then the prospects feeling it. And again, at least they won't necessarily be able to consciously realize it, but at least at the unconscious level, they're like, why is this guy so uptight? Like, why is he so tense?
Just be a bit loose and just have a conversation, because that's what got you there in the first place, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that's what got me there in the first place. What got me to the position of being able to close on Charlie's team a great offer was, again, being very relaxed and just having fun with it. And of course, having a good unconscious understanding of sales and why people buy. But yeah, that first month I was just very, very, uptight, tense. And again, energy transfer is so real. The prospect can feel it 100%, at least at the subconscious level. And that causes, again, at least at the subconscious level, that causes alarm bells. It causes distrust. Why is this guy uptight? Why is he nervous? Is he hiding something? That's basically the subconscious process that happens in the brain. And then, through luck or God's grace or whatever it was, towards the end of the month, I had like a couple of days back to back where I just like closed, back to back deals. And then I think that helped me kind of loosen up a little bit. And then it just kind of took off from there. And then, like I said, it's a multitude of things. And then I just got more and more used to the offer, to the prospects I'm talking with. I got more used to like what the common objections were, did a lot more training, a lot more drilling. Like I'm a big proponent of maths in sales. Sales, in my opinion, is a game of psychology and maths. You've got to, the math side of things is like, if you can make these numbers in a spreadsheet fit together, you'll make life-changing money. Like if you can make your show rate, your conversion rate, your cash collected metrics all fit together nicely, then again, you'll make life-changing money. The psychology comes into it of like, how do you change these metrics? How do you change your show rate, conversion rate? Thing. Well, that is, exactly right. But I've always been like very, very rigorous in terms of my tracking. Even I went through a stint on X, Twitter, where every day I would post all of my closing stats. It took off quite a lot. A lot of other closers liked it. And I'm a big, big proponent of like tracking. What gets tracked gets improved. And in my sales career, where I was religious with like tracking. You know, you get some closers and good closers as well that are terrible with admin and tracking. I was never like that. I was like,
oh, don't act up for the camera.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, and I took that to Charlie's. I was like very, very rigorous with my tracking, so that, and I would track this on a daily basis. I'd look over it on the span of a week and a month, and always be diligently looking at like, okay, this metric's gone down. Okay, why is that? You know, diagnose it, fix it. Okay, this metric needs to be improved. Diagnose, what can I do? Fix it. And so, yeah, so like I said with Charlie's, I think I just eased up a little bit, relaxed, got very, very focused on the math side of things, exactly what I needed to hit, implemented some processes. And then, yeah, like I said, things just kind of took off from there. And yeah, I believe like a good solid 90% of my months there, I was in the top 2. It did become a bit of a running thing that where I would be second place on the leaderboard. I don't necessarily mind that because it's like, it was a very competitive team, very good team. Obviously, there's a lot of closers that want to close on Charlie's team and rightly so. But yeah, I was always top of the leaderboard or second from again, like the 3rd month onwards.
And how long was you at Charlie's for?
That was about a year and a half, I believe, which for a closing role is actually quite a long time. Like,
I mean, people drop off like flies.
Oh man, you know this.
It's either you're crap or you stay there and then you probably just get bored and you think, you know what, I'm not actually doing that great here, and then you leave anyway. So like, what did you actually close in total? Just like revenue stats, cash collected? Yeah,
so that was about 2.2 million there. So yeah. So some good numbers, you know, but I think that like the numbers are obviously great. And again, I made life-changing money at Charlie's. Prior to that, I'd never made more than like, I don't know, probably 6K in a month, pounds, like $8K dollars. I made a lot more than that at Charlie's essentially. So the money aspect was good because obviously this is the beautiful thing about closing is that if you are good and you land onto a good role, yeah, you can make life-changing money, but it's also the things that you learn as well. Like I said, like, yeah, you know, being at Charlie's, making great money is brilliant. And that helped building up my cash reserve so that I could take a risk of going off and starting my business.
Yeah.
But the things that I learned at Charlie's, like seeing how him and his business partner, Bo, operates, because Bo doesn't really get a lot of the limelight and I don't think that he wants it, and that's fine. But Bo is like...
machine.
He is impressive, bro. Like,
yeah. They work so well together.
They do,
but
yin
like,
and yang. Yeah. They're perfect examples of like, you want a business partner that complements your weaknesses and vice versa. Like Charlie's kind of the face of the brand, Bo's kind of like that back end. And like I said, not many people, obviously Charlie's very, very well known, especially in like the coaching and consulting space, but not many people, unless they're kind of inside Charlie's business ecosystem, know about Bo. But Bo is equally as impressive as Charlie. Like I don't want to necessarily, like I said, he's a very private guy, so I don't want to go into too much details, but yeah, like Bo, like his level of wisdom and understanding about business combined with how young he is, like
it's incredible.
Yeah, I've still to this day, like never met, I don't think, a younger person that is so impressive, like
so intelligent, so on the ball, like
well-spoken.
The guy can see things that people don't see.
Exactly. You know he can see, and then you combine all of this with the fact that like he could be 50 years old and I'd still say the same thing about how wise he is, how deep his understanding of business is. Like you said, how he can like see a few steps ahead of it on the chessboard. But to be doing that at the age that he is, I mean...
Oh, it's nuts.
It's nuts, bro. It's straight up nuts. Like, how? And I think it's a shame. Maybe one day he'll kind of go into his story, but I think it's so interesting. Like I said, Charlie's impressive within himself, but I think if people knew his story of his business partner, Bo, who's equally as important in that company, I think, yeah, they'd be very, very impressed. I mean, again, I don't want to go into too much details because I know he's a very private guy, but the money that he was making in his late teens is like, yeah, I don't know if I've seen many other people beyond, I don't know, Premiership football players maybe, I don't know, like legit, like
taken away from business,
like NBA, like, okay, yeah, you can get some NBA star or some Premier League football player who's 18, 19 making millions, but to be doing that in business at that age is, highly, highly impressive. Yeah.
Different level.
Yeah.
So you being in, Charlie's team, you said that you were like top 2, right?
Yeah.
What do you think took you from like someone who was struggling? I know that you said that you were putting a bit too much pressure on yourself in the beginning. What do you think really took you from being someone who was at the bottom of the leaderboard, let's say, to then climbing all the way to the top and probably even schooling like the clothes that were already there before you? Because like 2.2 million, that's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And to stay on, especially Charlie Morgan, he's a very known face within the space. You've not only just climbed the ranks, but you've stayed there. Like you said, like it's hard to get there, but it's even harder to stay there
absolutely.
and do a good job, right? Yeah. So like, what do you think changed for you?
I think it can kind of fall under like 2 buckets. You've got the skill side of things. So, being able to run a good sales process, but then you've also got the internal things, call it mindset and whatever you want. I feel like mindset gets a bad rap, and yeah, I don't know. But essentially, yeah, I think it's that two things. I think it's about the skills, the sales process. And I was just able to, just naturally with experience, I was able to really be able to like dissect it, just to take a step back actually. So like I said, I'll talk about like the skills, which is the sales process side of things, and the internal, like my particular mind state and what's happening in here basically. But to start with the skills and sales process. So what's interesting was earlier on, I told you about how in the first month of that closing role at the agency, so I set the record most units anybody's ever sold in their first month. And what's really interesting about that was at the time, like I said, that was my first like closing role. I'd sold low ticket like B2C fitness for a long time at that point. What was interesting was that month at the agency where I did very, very well, my actual sales process itself was terrible. Like genuinely, really? Yeah. I was like fumbling over words. Just looking back, like again, after I'm like, it was one of them things where I'm like, I would get off the call and I'd be like, how did I close that? Like it was
just by luck, literally.
Yeah. But just, yeah, like, I don't know, just like I wasn't asking, I was nervous. I wasn't particularly asking great questions in discovery. I was fumbling over the pitch. Objections was kind of all over the place. But I was closing left, right, and center. And that actually, I think that experience was so interesting because what happened was I became obsessed with this idea of like, how did I do that? How did I do that when my sales process was terrible? And then I started going off on some like, this probably year-long period, it led over to when I was in Charlie's team, of really going into like trying to answer that question to myself. Like, how was I able to close that much when my sales process on the surface was terrible? So through a series of events, I basically just kept like analyzing, reflecting, studying a lot, thinking about a lot of my calls, and really just going deep into like the fundamentals of like, why do people buy things? Like, what is the core psychological principles, the first principles of why people buy high ticket goods and services? And this is also something that Charlie helped with. Charlie kind of introduced me to this idea of first principles thinking, which basically states if you want to solve a problem, like start off with the base layer truth and then reason up from there. So for example, in mathematics, like the raw base layer truth is that 1 + 1 = 2. And if you believe that 1 + 1 = 3, then any maths equations that you do moving forward are going to be wrong. So it's super important that you have your base layer truth understanding of any given domain. Why I'm saying that is because, again, that experience at the agency, closing with a terrible sales process, really just led me on this journey to trying to understand the fundamental principles, again, behind sales and why people buy high ticket goods. And then I just started reasoning up from there. And I think that as I went through this process of studying, as I understood more and more consciously, because like I said, I think I understood this consciously. And I think a lot of good closers at the unconscious level, it's called unconscious competence, but they understand at the unconscious level why something works, why people buy. But I embarked on this journey to consciously understand these psychological principles, these first principles of why people buy. And as I just came to more and more of an understanding and I could consciously see it, why people buy, I could start adjusting my sales process to adapt to those principles. And that's what I think led on to more and more and more success. So there's a lot I could go into, but yeah, I think that Charlie's, to answer your question, like what took me from being like, bottom of the leaderboard, nearly about to be fired, to being at the top, I think was the understanding and application of these first principles of why people buy. It's something I carry with me to this day. I have inside the training program that clients go through. I mean, I have an entire module, tens and tens of documents and lessons and videos about just specifically these first principles of why people buy. I get a lot of good feedback on it. Of course, we do cover the sales process, the tactics, scripts, of course, but I genuinely believe that the understanding and application of these first principles of why people buy honestly accounts for 80% of people's results. The scripts and tactics and things like that is important, but it's 20% of your results. But anyway, side tangent there. So I think that's a key contributing factor was, again, understanding and applying these principles of why people buy to the sales process at Charlie's team and Imperium. But then beyond that was also the internal side of things, like my own mind state. I truly believe that there's two broad buckets of what will affect the closer's income. The skills, so again, the understanding and application of the first principles of why people buy, the sales process that they run. So that's, again, the tactics, the scripting, things like that. But then on the other side, you've got their own internal state, their character traits, mindset, whatever you want to call it. And I think at Charlie's, like I said, I started off that first month very tense, very under pressure, because again, it's the first time in my life where I saw a route to making life-changing money. So I think, again, I put a lot of internal pressure on myself. But then as the months go by, naturally, you close some more deals, you build up some more confidence, and it's a feedback loop, right? Like, you close a deal, that boosts up your confidence even more. Because your confidence is boosted up, you close more deals, and the cycle just continues. So it's an upward spiral. But that can also happen on the inverse as well. You can go into downward spirals. So, any closer that's been doing this a long time has probably had some period in their life where they had a string of maybe bad calls that knocked their confidence. Then therefore they close less deals, and it's the spiral downwards. So spirals in life, I think, are very, very real and can be applied to a lot of things. But yeah, I'd say it's that. I'd say, again, after that first month, I really, really struggled. But towards the end of the month, I so luckily had some prospects that would just lay down leads. They were going to buy no matter what. So they ended up closing. And then again, I think that built my confidence, like, oh, okay, no, I can close here.
It gave you that belief that you could do it.
Yeah, it gave me the belief. Because obviously, naturally, again, you go through a string of bad times. Your sales manager's talking to you about you've got to improve and things like that. And then you start obviously doubting yourself. Well, I wouldn't say I do that now. Like now I've just been through so many thousands of calls that I don't get too concerned about short-term dips. Like variance is a factor, it's something I try and say to these closers. I'm like, you have to try and remove the emotion from, just look at things logically. Okay, I've gone through a week of not closing the deal. You have to really importantly identify, is that because of something that I'm doing? Or did I just get unlucky with some bad leads that couldn't close? Because that can happen. You can have short-term dips from things that are outside of your control.
The overall data.
Exactly. Yeah. Looking at the overall data. And obviously it gets to a certain point and a time frame that if you're still not closing deals, okay, yeah, we need to look at
Go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, we need to go back to the drawing board and diagnose and identify and fix the problem. But yeah, super important to just take emotions out of it, because you can experience short-term dips without a doubt. I've seen some of the best closers in the world go through down periods. There is always things in life that are outside of our control. I think there was that as well. Like, again, I fortunately had a couple of deals that were just lay down leads that closed. That gave me a little bit of confidence. Because of that confidence, I then ended up closing more deals. And again, it's just an upward spiral from there.
Interesting.
I say those two things, man. The understanding and application of the first principles of sales, which led to me naturally closing more deals as I went with Charlie. And then also just my internal state being a lot better, being a lot more relaxed, being more positive, having a lot of belief in myself. And that, like we said earlier, energy transfer is very, very real. So how you feel will absolutely rub off onto the prospect on some level. They might not be able to consciously feel it, but at least at the subconscious level, how you feel will transfer to them. If we know that energy transfer is real, and we know that prospects buy when they're in a positive, hopeful, enthusiastic state, then what does it make sense to what state to be in ourselves? Positive, hopeful, enthusiastic, certain. Prospects need certainty as well, especially when they're buying high ticket products and services that are a big chunk of their net worth. They need to feel that certainty. And the best way to do that is to be in a certain state myself, so... And I think that, yeah, again, as I built more confidence with Charlie's, my internal state just got better and better, combined with a better sales process. And it was all just an upward spiral.
Everything just came together. And
it was all
lost it out of the park.
Exactly. Yeah. All an upward spiral from there, essentially.
So I'm going to challenge you now, right? I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Based on your experience of being on Charlie's and being on the FMA offer, would you say, even though Charlie is up there with all the big dogs, right? He's very, very credible. He's a favorable face inside of, the info space, high ticket, whatever you want to call it, right? Is it an easy offer or is it a hard offer to sell?
Charlie's?
Yeah.
Hard.
Really?
And I didn't know this at the time.
Why would you say that?
So this is interesting. So B2B info, which at the time was what I think Charlie's made, there's been some changes with the product, so I don't want to say this is what it is now. It's a phenomenal product, by the way, genuinely. I don't work for them. I'm not affiliated with them anymore, so I have no incentive to say that. But Charlie's product, Easy Grow, and his mastermind, incredible. It's genuinely very, very good. However, at that time, it was basically purely info and coaching as well. They had a lot of group coaching calls. And B2B info, in my opinion, is hard and only got harder as the market got more sophisticated. So, it's an interesting one, because what I find is that, again, especially as time went on, it was a little bit different back then, but especially I saw the writing on the wall. I was seeing more and more people show up to the call and not want info, not want courses. I mean, even though I've been through courses that have changed my life, but it's like course sellers do have a bad rap now. And it makes sense, because selling courses is just such a good business model. Like, it's such a good business. If you can predictably sell a high ticket course, like, that's heaven. Like, so I think that because it's such a good business model, a lot of bad actors came into the space and tried to take advantage of that and built low quality products, which is why now course sellers have quite a bad name. And it's something that's I suppose, a bit frowned upon is courses. So what I was finding with Charlie's is that I didn't know this at the time. Again, Charlie's was really my first proper closing role. So I didn't know any different. But looking back now that I've kind of expanded my horizons, I realized like, selling B2B info only is like the game on hard mode. A lot of, again, especially nowadays, might have been different back then, but especially nowadays, a lot of business owners, again, especially that coach, consultant, agency owner market, they're very sophisticated. They've been burnt by a bunch of courses before, and they don't want just a course. They want obviously like done for you. They want one-to-one. They want things implemented for them rather than just watching a course. So again, I didn't know any of this at the time. But yeah, B2B info, in my opinion, is hard. At the stage of the market that we're at, a lot of people don't want courses, you know?
Apart from it being like sophisticated, right? The market being sophisticated and they know what's going on.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would say that made that offer hard to sell?
I would just say that, again, it was just the market in the sense of, again, I didn't necessarily know this at the time. I didn't know any different, but like that space, again, agency owners, coaches, consultants, like they're very like, they're trained on sales themselves, you know, many of them have been through many sales training processes. So when you as the closer are asking certain questions, like they know what you're doing. So you have to finesse it in a way like, you know, it's interesting. I think a lot of people go the route of saying like, oh, sales is just the same, like for everybody. And it's like, sales is sales. And yeah, it is true. The fundamental principles of sales are the same, whether you're selling B2B info, B2C biz op. But ultimately, it's like, you know, for example, if you're a high-level boxer, for example, you don't go into every single boxing fight with the same strategy. You know, you think to yourself, okay, this guy's a southpaw, therefore this is going to be my strategy. Okay, this next fight, this guy is explosive, so therefore I'm going to do this. You adapt your strategy to the person in front of you. And it's the same in sales. So what I mean by that is like, yeah, selling to that market, agency owners, coaches, consultants, they're very sophisticated. They know what a sales process is. They know why you're asking certain questions. So you have to finesse it. You still want to apply the fundamental principles. You still want to ask questions that are going to get the answers and information that you want and bring them into an internal state that you want. But you have to do it in a slightly different way than you would. For example, B2C BizOp, where you can just ask like a consequence question and they'll just melt and like they have no idea what you're
emotional sell,
emotional sell, and it's easy. You know, they have no idea what a sales process is. They have no idea what you're doing. Versus again, that agency owner, coaches, consultants market who know what you're doing, don't like being sold to. They've been sold to 100 times in the past. They've been burnt by other programs. That's, I believe, what makes it a little bit harder. Not to say that it is hard, but harder than other things that you could close, such as B2C BizOp or selling AI like what we do, you know?
How did you get around that? Because obviously you're having these calls back to back. And what was the price point for Charlie's? It was obviously near around 8K, wasn't it?
Right around 10K, yeah.
So you're selling a 10K offer to not only like agency owners, but beginner agency owners who probably don't even have any money. How did you like navigate that? Because there's one thing trying to sell to people who have money, right? And trying to get them to see the value because they don't want more work on their plate. They want to save time. Whereas the people you're speaking to is a mixture. You're getting people who have money, some people don't have money, and it's a 10K price point. Like, how did you work your way around that and how did you navigate the situation?
So there's a lot to it, but the key is, and this is what I say to my guys, bear in mind, we sell B2B AI solutions within the program. We close for AI businesses, and we're most often speaking to cash-rich business owners who, similar to like that Charlie market, they know a sales process. They've been sold to a lot. They've probably been trained on sales themselves. So the same thing applies for what we do now, B2B AI solutions. And again, there's a lot to it, but the absolute key is you want it to feel as close to a natural human conversation as possible while still getting the information that you want and still moving them into an internal state that you want. But you have to do it, you have to finesse it. So that means, okay, for example, you know, a lot of amateur salespeople, you know, they're reading off a script. And so what they'll do is they'll ask their questions in discovery. They'll be like, so what brought you to the call? The prospect will give their answer. And blah, 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 blah. And then it just like the prospect says something, they say, okay, then move to the next question. But again, there's so much to this, but the key is, again, making it feel like a natural human conversation. And in a natural human conversation, what happens? You might ask somebody a question, they'll give you the answer. You might then give your thoughts about their answer, and then you'll ask them another question. You like, if you were with your friend in a bar or something, you wouldn't ask them a question and then they answer and you go, okay, and then move on to the next question. It's just weird. Like, and we cannot, especially in B2B settings, we cannot make it seem like we're running a sales process, even though we are, and we still want the information and still want to get them into the internal state that we need. So the key is making it feel like a natural human conversation. Now, how you do that, again, is a whole deep topic, but that's one example of like, you ask your question, you give your thoughts about their answer, and then we move on. Another thing that we teach in our discovery process, and this is counter to a lot of sales trainings where they say like, never talk about yourself in the discovery or whatever.
Yeah.
Totally untrue. So untrue. Because again, in a natural human conversation, what happens? The person gives their answer. You give a little bit of insight into yourself and what you think. Then you might ask them another question. That's how a normal human conversation goes. So in our sales process, what's interesting is that we sometimes in some stages of discovery, we go off on a little bit of a monologue about ourselves. So for example, okay, when we're in like the desired situation part of the call, naturally we want a couple of things. We want their goal, so their short-term goal, their long-term goal, their ultimate vision, if you will. We want to get their why, their deeper motivation, and we also want to future pace them. Now in the why question, what do a lot of amateur salespeople do, and what do a lot of sales trainings teach? That your question for that is, okay, so what's your deeper motivation behind wanting X, Y, Z? Now the problem with that is that, again, if somebody is trained on sales, which a big portion of the B2B market is, they know what you're doing by asking that question. They know that you want them to give you their deeper motivation because it moves them into a more emotional state, and therefore they're more likely to buy. So if you ask that question like that these days, then the prospect in many cases is going to lose trust towards you. They're going to feel like this guy's trying to sell me something. Their guard goes up. So actually what we do in our sales process, this is just one example of many I can give about how we make it feel like a natural human conversation. So I've said to you, Reese, we've mainly spoken about where you're currently at, your current pains, current challenges, but what's important for me to know is where you're looking to get to. So first off, like what really is the short-term goal here? Call it 6-month time frame. Prospect says is to get to 50K a month. Okay, cool. Now what's the long-term vision? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, now we're into our why question. Remember, I can't say to them, in most cases, I can't say to them, and what's your deeper motivation behind wanting 50K a month? Again, that will lower trust. They'll know what I'm doing.
You build that friction and then the resistance will kick in.
Exactly. They'll know that I'm trying to sell them, which is not what we want. We want it to feel like a natural human conversation. So prospects told me their short-term goal, the long-term goal, call it 50K a month for this hypothetical scenario. So then in our guys, what they'll do is they'll go off on a little bit of a tangent, a little bit of a monologue about themselves. Now we're still going to get the information. We're still going to get their why and deeper motivation, but how we do it is different. So I'll say, okay, interesting. So 50K a month, and what I'd be really interested to know and what's really important for me to know is what your why is, what your deeper motivations are. And the reason being, I'll give you a couple of examples. We've got a guy in here at the moment, his name's Eric. He blah, 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 and I go off on a little bit of a story about Eric who got great results with us. And basically his why was he just wanted to retire early so that he could spend time with his grandkids. But then on the flip side to that, I've got this other guy in here, James. He's like, more like 25 years old, wants very ambitious, wants to hit the big numbers, the 100K months, doesn't care how hard he has to work to get there because he was actually from a single mother household and blah, blah, blah. And we basically go on to his why. So then at that point, so what we're doing is I've given them some insight into to two different people with contrasting whys. And then at the end, I'm saying to them, and it's really important for us to know because as you can see, the way that we're going to help those two people is obviously slightly different based on what their why is. And by the way, we typically tend to find as well that clients with the strongest whys tend to just get the best results. So I'd be curious to know, Reese, what is your why? What's your driving factor behind actually wanting 50K a month? So what I've done there, rather than me saying, what's your deeper motivation, which again is going to lower trust, what I've done is I've given them some insight into the lives and situations of some people that we work with that have, some contrasting whys. I've also given them context and justification as to why I'm asking the question. So I'm saying to them, hey, I need to know your why so that I can build a strategy around that to ultimately get you to your goal and to your why. So what we've done is, again, we've provided justification for why we're asking the question. Now, and again, I'm telling you, if you ask it this way, you will never get resistance ever. If you ask that question of like just directly, what's your deeper motivation behind wanting X, Y, Z? Well, first off, it's going to cause a loss of trust amongst 90%. A percentage of them will even outright tell you like, what are you doing? Like, can we just get to the details? They'll fight back on you on it. Doing it this way, I have never, in all my thousands of calls, never had one person resist that question. High level people as well. And amongst all the other clients that we work with, I've never had them tell me that they've had resistance to that question. But we get the important information, we get their why, and we get the information we need. We get them in the emotional state that we need without any resistance, without any loss of trust. And actually what we also do is as well, we create what's called reciprocity bias. Reciprocity bias is basically a cognitive bias, which is well known, which basically states that if I give something to somebody else, they almost feel, at least on a psychological level, they feel indebted to me and they feel like they have to give me something back.
Like a return, basically, like I'm obliged to give you a return.
Exactly. And we leverage that throughout our discovery process. So again, it goes back to like, rather than just asking a salesy question, what I might do is I might give, again, the framework is, so I'll give them a little bit of insight into, for example, my life. If I'm talking about their pain, I might give them an example about some pain that I felt and how I solved it. Then I'm going to give them justification for why I'm asking and why it's important for me to know the next question I'm about to ask about their pain. And what I'm doing there is through me giving insight into my own life, I'm creating reciprocity bias. Okay, that guy opened up to me. Now I'm going to open up to him. I feel indebted to him. I feel like I have to give it back to him. So they open up more and more and more. I'm also providing justification for why I'm asking the question. Now they don't feel like they're being sold to, because they're like, oh, right, that makes sense. Okay, he needs to know my why because that's going to determine the strategy that we give. Like, okay, that makes sense. Now they're just going to give me all the information that I need, all the information that's going to lead me towards a higher chance of converting the sale. It's going to get them into the internal state that they need without, again, causing any sales resistance, without causing a loss of trust, while building reciprocity bias. They feel, again, indebted to me. They want to open up to me because I've opened up to them. Again, but there's just so much to it. But like at the high level, it's about, making your conversations feel as close to a normal human conversation as possible, while also leveraging key psychological principles that, it's so deep. But
No, I totally agree, man. Thanks for obviously just sharing that, because there was a lot of info there that you were sharing. I totally agree, man. I mean, when you're having these conversations with people, at the end of the day, it's just a normal conversation, regardless whether it's a sales setting, an interview, or you're just having a conversation with one of your friends. It's still the same process. Of course, there's an agenda behind it, or there's a goal or objective behind it where you're trying to get them to buy your product or service. But at the end of the day, people will sniff that out. Yeah. And if you're doing that in 2025 moving onwards, then you've got a real big problem, because you're going to struggle, right? Like, as everybody says right now, we're in a trust recession. And people need to feel like once they get on that call that you are the person that they want to buy from and that they want to work with. So I can totally agree with that 100%, man. So let's now move on from like Charlie. So you left Charlie. What was the next step for you? And why did you even leave Charlie in the first place?
So I left Charlie's because it wasn't anything like bad at all. I just I got to a stage where, at this point I'd taken, between 1,000 and 2,000 calls. And the thing is, through obviously Charlie's program is obviously focused on a lot, helping other people to grow their business and putting acquisition systems in place. And long story short, I've always loved sales. I love the psychology behind it. I love doing sales calls still to this day. Sales changed my life. So I'll always have a love and a passion for sales. But I've always ultimately known that I wanted to be the offer owner, to be the business owner, because there's so many other aspects of business that I'm interested in beyond just sales. And the more and more that I work with Charlie and I'm networking with all these other business owners, I'm obviously going through, I had naturally had access to Charlie's program. I'm learning from him about copywriting, marketing, acquisition systems. And I was just so interested in other aspects of the business. I always knew that I wanted to have my own business, essentially, have my own offer. I didn't necessarily know what it was going to be at that time, but I knew for a long time that was my goal. I knew for me that closing for me wasn't the end goal. It was more of a stepping stone. It was a stepping stone to build up my cash reserves, make some good money, stack a load of cash in the bank, build up my skills, build up my connections. And I did all of those things with Charlie. And then I got to a point where it's like, I didn't really feel like at that point, I'd feel like I'd gotten what I needed from it in terms of, again, the cash, the skills, the connections. And I felt like it was time to move on. I didn't feel like I was learning anything else at that point. Like I said, I learned so much during my time with Charlie, but then it kind of got to a point where I wanted more, essentially, So from there, like I knew that I wanted to own a business, but I didn't quite know what. So I was kind of just bouncing around, to be honest, between a couple of like high ticket sales offers. And then eventually I was like, right, okay. I had a lot of resistance at the time towards the whole like starting a business which teaches closers how to close, gets them placed into a role. I had a lot of resistance around that because I was like, it just feels like so many people are doing it. It's just so like, there's so many people who like, they spend maybe 6 months closing and then they're often creating a course around it. Some of them that are good and okay at doing that, but I didn't really feel like that was what I wanted to do. But it just got to a point where I was like, I feel like I'd gotten what I needed from closing. I felt
it was actually a friend of mine who actually convinced me out of this. He was like, bro, like, yeah, okay, a lot of people do this whole teaching closing thing, but you have such a unique perspective on it. You have a unique thing that nobody else teaches, which is, again, teaching the psychological first principles of closing. Like most of these closing programs, they just basically teach you a framework, give you a script. And, you know, again, I teach frameworks and give scripts, but nobody teaches like the solid, like first principles, psychological principles. Yeah, the foundations, like why at the fundamental level do people buy from you? And yeah, a friend of mine was like, yeah, he was actually a one-on-one. He was a one-on-one coaching client, because I did a little bit on the side. I did a little bit of one-on-one coaching, I mean, throughout for a long time at that point. But yeah, he was like, you should really like build a program and build a business around this, like teaching your specific perspective on sales. So long story short, I was like, okay, yeah, right, I will do it then. So yeah, I locked in for about 3 months, just building, you know, took the building of the product very, very seriously, which is something I got from Charlie. Like Charlie's very big on like, build a really, really good product, and a lot of other things will take care of themselves, you know, if you have a really, really good product. So I took that very, very seriously. You know, like I said, I just locked into my office for like 3 months, building the course, taking everything that I knew in my mind about sales and just, putting it into a training program. So yeah, I locked in on that, started marketing in it. It's like I said, I learned a lot throughout my time with Charlie about like marketing, copywriting, ads, because marketing is kind of sales in a way as well. It's just selling to many versus selling to one. So I feel like I picked up marketing quite quickly. And yeah, you know, it was going well. We're bringing in some good clients. Clients were getting great results. And then, like I said, you know, we had a couple of guys just crush it on AI offers. And through a series of events, I just came to that realization that closers in AI is like the best opportunity in the world right now. And in my opinion, will continue to be for a very long time. So we pivoted our full focus to just helping closers close high ticket AI solutions, getting them placed into a role. That led us to today, and we are absolutely flying. Like we've had guys, like I said earlier, complete beginners do like 7,000 commission per week. We've had guys.
I mean, you gave me a closer.
Yeah, true.
And he's really good.
And he's really good. And he's really, exactly. Yeah. But we're flying. Like I'm really, really excited for the future.
Yeah, cool, man. Like I totally understand exactly where you're coming from. Like with the whole sales thing, there's so many components to it. And I feel like, you need to get the reps in, but at the same time, you need to get the reps in, look at the data and know where you're going wrong. Like watch all your calls back. I'm sure you're watching a ton of your calls, like 100%. Day in, day out, week by week, right? In terms of like, you said that obviously you've given me a rep, you've placed a few reps now. Like, let's talk more about like what you do now in terms of like the coaching aspect, because it's not like you just do coaching like everybody else does. Like you actually do a lot more than that. And I can see exactly the benefit of what you do and what you offer. Like talk to us about that, because I know exactly what you do, but for the people that are watching, explain to them what you do in more detail.
Yeah, sure. So first off, like I said earlier, like the big thing that I learned from Charlie was the importance of having a good product. Like everybody's always like business owners and offer owners are often always thinking about like ads and like sales process. And obviously that stuff's important, acquisition, of course, but what's equally as important, if not more important, is having a genuinely good product. So I've always taken our product, our fulfillment systems extremely seriously and still do to this day. Now, why I'm bringing that up is because, you know, naturally throughout my sales career and my time closing, I'd been through all the main sales training programs out there. You know, obviously I won't name names, you know, but some of them were good, some of them were terrible. But what I really felt like all these sales training programs lacked was that, you know, a lot of them would be good on the training front, you know, but then when it comes to recruitment, you're just left to fend for yourself. They're like, go send some DMs. And I was just like, I really wanted to build this product around what all those programs missed out, which was recruitment. And so fast forward to today, our difference with a lot of these other programs is that, yes, we give you all the training to, you know, very, very in depth. We take it very seriously in terms of, because we want to obviously place good closers, right? Like when we place a closer, they're an indirect representation of us. So, you know, if we place somebody good and they perform well, the company that we place them within is going to want to hire more through us. So again, we take the training very, very seriously. So that's across a combination of self-paced modules that they go through, one-to-one coaching, and also group coaching as well. But then on the other side to that, we also do full on like done for you recruitment. So what's interesting about us is that, so first off, I have a full-time back-end team whose entire like sole job is to go out to the market to find great AI businesses. And we also, AI is our focus, but we also can broaden out a little bit just to any high ticket B2B company we can place closers within. For reasons being that from a closer's perspective, like it's so much better to close things with higher price points because you net more per sale. So for example, if I'm selling like a $30,000 AI solution versus a $5,000 course, I'm going to make about 6 times the commission for practically the same amount of work. And it goes back to what we said earlier. Courses are getting harder and harder to sell by the nature of sophistication of the market. But you're selling something like a $30,000 AI solution, not only does it net you 6 times the commission for practically the same amount of work, but it can often be an easier sell than a 5K course because you're selling something that business owners actually want. It solves a genuine problem. You know, yes, it might be 30 grand, but it's going to add 500 grand or $1 million a year to their business. So that's how we can justify these high prices. But anyways, so yeah, we do done for you recruiting as well as the training. So I have a full-time team whose entire job on the back end is to go out to find businesses that fit our criteria and make deals for them to hire our closers through us. When a closer comes in, they go through the training. They have to go through a one-to-one mock call skills assessment before we start the placement process. Once that has happened, they get access to an internal system where they can view all of our available roles and partnerships, which again, at this point spans over 500. We're very confident we're going to get that to 1,000 plus sometime around Q1, Q2 next year. But yeah, they get access to this internal recruitment system. They can register their interest with each role and company with literally a couple of clicks. It takes like 30 seconds. And then what will happen from there? So our recruitment team, who are very seasoned, very experienced, like again, we're in the trenches of this industry. We understand exactly what these founders and sales leaders are looking for in a closer. So we really craft their application and we do it for them as well. So all they have to do is just go onto our internal system, have a look at some of the companies, register their interest, and then we'll take care of the rest essentially. So what will happen is a recruitment team will go out and apply on their behalf, which like I said, in my experience, none of these other programs do that. Like again, you're told to just send a couple of DMs on LinkedIn, but we'll actually have a recruitment team that will craft your recruitment material. They'll apply on your behalf. And then, and again, I've heard of nobody else doing this, each client, each closer is assigned a setter. And what the setter will do is, after the recruitment team has applied to that company that the closer has registered their interest for, their assigned setter will go out to that company and personally pitch the closer. And again, we know exactly what these companies are looking for. So we kind of have these two layers. And this is how, frankly, we can outcompete all of these other sales training programs, basically, who just simply cannot do this. They don't put that effort and focus on recruitment, but we do. Yeah, so that you get a recruitment team that's seasoned, experienced, who know exactly how to craft your application. They'll apply to that company that you've registered your interest for. The setter will then come in and personally pitch you. It's just like, we literally can't go wrong. It's really just about taking the training seriously, making sure that we're ready for the calls, because like we will be able to get a closer place. That's just facts. Like it's really just a case of somebody taking the training seriously, going through the process, making sure they're ready for the calls, because we can get them placed, no problem. Like again, our recruitment, like it goes deep. Like, and I'm not just saying this because I own the business. It's because I built this around what all these other programs missed out. So yeah, we really can get closers placed into like top tier, high ticket B2B and AI roles. It's just a case of somebody taking the training seriously, basically, making sure they're ready to close deals once they're in the role.
Yeah, I mean, let's say like a closer's watching this, right? They've been on a few offers and now they want to start selling AI. How do they come into your world and succeed? Because like you said, like 5K price point to 30K is a big jump, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, the commissions are greater. But then a closer could be watching this and then they might just say, yeah, but who's going to pay 30 grand, right? But you know and I know that there are people and there are businesses that will pay a lump sum of money just to, you know, get a solution done for them, especially now that AI is new. It's something that's coming into the mix. Every business is starting to use AI. Like, how can someone who's just going from like your generic B2C offer, selling like a 5K, 6K course to now selling 30 grand? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a couple of things. I mean, first off, like in my opinion, what determines your income as a closer is 3 things. It's number one is the obvious one, your skills, how well you can understand and apply the fundamental principles of sales, how well you can run a sales process. That's the first thing that contributes to your income is skills. Second one is your character traits. So putting it this way, you could be a highly skilled closer, but if you lack the ability to focus, if you're lazy, etc., you're just never going to maximize your full potential. So you need to have a set of good character traits that are favorable to closing a lot of deals. Third thing is that you need to be in the right industry with the right company, which is obviously, you know, in my biased opinion, what we do best. We get people into solid companies which have high price points, which again gives us that efficiency of high commissions per deal. Companies with a lot of demand that solve a genuine problem. So those are three things that we really focus on. And that's obviously what working with us gives you: the skills, the character traits, and being in the right industry with the right company. And that's how we can really get to the big numbers, the 20, 30 grand a month and beyond. So that's the first thing. But the second thing, I think that it goes back to something we actually spoke about earlier, which is that, while the fundamental principles of sales are the same across B2C, across B2B, agency services, courses, whatever it might be, the fundamentals, yes, are the same. However, if you approach a B2C course sale the same way that you approach a B2B high ticket AI solution sale, you just, it's not going to go very well for you, because again, it goes back to what we said earlier. If you are a high level UFC fighter and athlete, you don't go into every single fight with just the same strategy. Although the fundamental principles are the same. The fundamental principles in boxing or UFC or whatever are finish the opponent,
Yeah.
But based on the person that's in front of us, we're going to adapt our strategy. We might have a wrestler in front of us. Okay, well, we're going to do this. Okay, this guy is very fast with his hands. Therefore, I'm going to do this. Again, if a UFC fighter approaches every single person in the same way with the same strategy, it's not going to end well for them. Same applies in sales. The fundamentals are the same. However, if we don't adapt our strategy on the surface, we're just going to be cooked. So again, there's a lot that goes into this. And obviously in the training program, we teach about the differences between selling very high ticket B2B solutions. And I would say it's a little bit more of a consultative sell. It's a little bit more of a logical sell. I had somebody recently say to me, yeah, but the fundamentals are the same. Like, people buy from emotion and justify with logic. And of course that's true. But the thing is like a B2B buyer has to logically see why this would work before they move into the emotional state. Unlike a B2C prospect who might just get all giddy and emotional and then just buy, and then they'll justify it later with logic. It can sometimes be the opposite way around, again, with especially sophisticated business owners. They have to logically see why this solution would work. And then if they can logically see it, why it would work, then that moves them into an emotional state that they buy from, because they can logically see why it would work. So in our sales process of high ticket B2B and especially AI, it's again a little bit more of a logical sell. It's a little bit more of a consultative sell. It's one that requires a little bit more business acumen, I would say. And this is again something that we teach within the training program, because it's super, super important. If you're speaking with a CEO who's running a $30 million a year business, then you have to have the acumen and be able to articulate how this AI solution would slot into their business and the value of it slotting into their business. Again, they have to logically see why this would work before they can move into the emotional state. And that's something that's, again, very in-depth and something that we teach. So overall, I'd say that's a bit of a difference. Is, again, a bit more of a logical sell, a bit more consultative, requires more business acumen. Because again, if you're going to be speaking with business owners, high-level business owners, you need to understand at least the fundamentals of how business works, because otherwise these business owners are frankly not going to respect you. They're going to be like,
100%.
Yeah, why would I buy off this guy who doesn't know a thing, and I'm doing 30 million a year? It's like, you also have to carry yourself in a certain way. I think it's funny, in a lot of these B2C course type things, it's all about reframing limiting beliefs, where it's like, good.
You can't do that with someone who's earning 30 mil a year.
30 mil a year. It's like, good luck trying to go through your word tracks and reframe them. It's not going to go well. But there is a certain way that we can carry ourselves that does, because again, the fundamentals are the same in the sense of we do need to portray a vibe of authority. I call it the two most important frames to have on a sales call are the authority frame, where you're viewed as an expert in this given context. If you can combine that with what I call the moral frame, where you are perceived to be somebody who actually has ethics, who's not just trying to take their money, you actually care about them and their results. If you can combine those frames together, you are set. You're going to make life-changing money, and that's just the fact. Everything else will take care of itself. But for the authority part, for carrying ourselves with a level of authority, again, we have to have a level of business acumen. We have to understand and be able to articulate, again, how this AI solution is going to slot into into their business, essentially.
No, definitely. I mean, if you're looking at, let's say, like a construction company, right? They're geezers. They know what they want. They're very probably like old-fashioned, old school. Like, they're not new to this. Well, not new to this. They are new to it. They're new to this AI stuff. But to them, it's just, I don't need that. I've been doing 30 mil a year for years. Why would I need that now, right? And that's the difference. It's like, even with one of our clients, right? We have a very unique offer that we're selling. And it's not like your generic core sell where you're just, selling a program and it's group coaching, all that sort of rubbish. This is a life-changing opportunity. So majority of the prospects are rich prospects. So the way that you sell to these people is a completely different ballgame to the way that you would sell a biz op offer. 100%. Right? So what I sort of say to the closers on our team is that, look, there isn't an obvious pain here, but you need to figure out what that is, because there is a pain in every single conversation that you're having with these prospects. You just need to understand what it is and how to adapt yourself. So like I always say, selling to rich people is you're selling the opportunity for them to save time and make more money whilst doing less, right? It's not necessarily that these people need to make more money. They've already got enough money. They need to save time and do less, right? They want to delegate things. And that's the same thing with the AI solutions in terms of what you sell and what you're trying to teach your closers, is that like when you go into these offers, you're speaking to people who are happy to spend 20, 30K. What are they buying? They're buying the opportunity to save time. They're buying the solution for them to be able to remove themselves. And now let's say they've got 10 staff members doing one job, right? Covering one department. They're now pulling those out and just replacing it with an AI solution. They're saving money and they're saving time, and they're making more money because they have a machine working for them instead of like staff members that they need to train up, hiring process. It's all just, it's just one of those things that if you're able to articulate exactly what it is that you're selling to someone who is in a position to buy, let's say a 20, 30K package, then they're going to be able to buy it all day long. But most prospects, or most salespeople, should I say, the problem is that they think that every sales call is the same. And that's exactly what you're trying to change. And I like that. So yeah, thanks for diving into that. So let's just say now, right? Let's just say that I've come to you and I go, Scott, look, I think I'm a bad boy closer. Put me on an AI offer, right? Let's say someone's got experience, they've done what you've done. Is it a case where they could just go straight into like an AI offer right away, or would they still need to go through this process?
Still needs to go through the process, yeah. Because, you know, it's funny, naturally, it's an interesting thing with sales. Like, I find that with salespeople, like, people either believe that they are like God's gift at sales, or they think that they're just terrible at sales and it's just naturally not meant for them. Like, there's no in between. Like, it's funny, you don't really get that with other skills and domains in life. Like, you wouldn't have somebody that's like, oh yeah, no, I can market, just get me in that ads manager. Or I'm just like, oh no, marketing's just not for me. Like, that doesn't really happen anywhere else. A lot of salespeople do have this level of like ego, which don't get me wrong, I mean, that can actually help. It can help to have almost like a delusional level of self-belief in sales. But yeah, you naturally do get people, like I get people that come to me all the time and they're like, I don't need the training, just get me into a role. And it's funny actually, like, I really do notice a difference between, like, we get a lot of guys that come to us, they're already making, 15, 20, 25 grand a month. They just want to do more and maybe work on better offers and not have to deal with B2C markets. And those kind of people that are already doing well are the people that are always like open to training. They're like, they have that mindset, what is called the white belt mentality of like, I can always get better.
Yeah, they're coachable.
They're coachable. Yeah. They're like, they can understand that, okay, yeah, I'm going to be selling, high ticket AI solutions, which I've never done. Therefore, I'm open to training. And it's always those guys that are at like 5, 10K a month that are like, oh, no, I don't need that. No, just get me in there.
The smallest dogs have the loudest bark. That's exactly what it is.
It's 100% true. Like, again, I really do notice a difference. The guys that are actually doing the big numbers are always open to going through training. And that's not a coincidence, But anyway, so yeah, we do still require them to go through the training. It's all at their own pace. So they could smash all through it in like 7 to 10 days. I think our record is somebody went through the entire training in like 8 days. 4 days later, they were placed.
Wow.
It's like 12 days start to finish. So yeah, we do require them to go through the training. Yeah, we require them before we start the placement process. We require them to go through a one-to-one mock call with us where we run the sales process. We give them very structured like feedback and a scorecard. And then if we are happy with their performance, then we'll start the placement process. Because again, like, when we place somebody, they are an indirect reflection of us. Like, if we place somebody into a company and it's that company's first time working with us and we place somebody who is just terrible, then that company is not going to think highly of us. They're not going to hire through us again. That costs us a lot of money. It ruins a relationship. And so we take it seriously. Yeah. So yeah, we do require, I even if somebody's like been the absolute top closer at their previous role, been making 30, 40K a month, I would still say to them, listen, like, I don't care if you want to get through all the training and just smash it out in a couple of days or a week, but we're going to need this mock call before you go in, because I don't know, like, I had countless people say to me, like, explain to me how they're God's gift at sales. And then actually you get on a call with them and they're not all that great.
Yeah.
It's so in my head, I just try to be like unbiased in the sense of like, okay, I appreciate that you're telling me that you're great at sales, and I'm sure you probably are. But until I see that, I don't know. And I can't just risk that. I can't just risk putting somebody into an offer and them not performing. And then that again, burns a bridge and relationship and costs us a lot of money. So yeah, we always require them to go through the training. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I feel like that's the right way to go about things, because when I first stepped into sales, right, going way back, probably like, what year are we in now? 2025. Probably about 5-6 years ago, right, when I first stepped into sales, I was told that, like, you know, you don't have any experience, like, we're not going to take you on, blah, 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 into the car sales world. And I was just looking for an opportunity. Now, when I went to the job interview down in Edgware for Trust Forward, right, the general manager said to me, he said, listen, put that aside. I like people who have no experience. And I'm looking at this guy thinking, like, are you drunk? Like, surely you just want to get somebody who's got experience. They can turn, you know, the cogs around straight away and they can start selling and making you money. He said, no, because you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And the thing is, it's so true. Like, a lot of people who have an ego and they've been in sales, they feel like they know it all, blah, 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 right? They feel like they're at that point where they don't need to learn anymore. They feel like they know everything. And then it's hard to get them to sort of switch that off and then use your new approach and tailor what you're teaching them to apply it to the AI solution offers that you're giving them, right? So it's like, if you have someone who's completely brand new, they've never sold before, they're actually easier to sell, not easier to sell, easier to train, because they will then sell in the way that you want them to sell, and they're learning the good habits instead of the bad habits. And that's exactly what I learned right off the bat, is that it's not really about what you know in sales, it's about what you're able to learn and who you're learning from. Because the mentor and the people that you invest into are going to shape your future. And like, I'm not saying, you know, that other sales programs out there are not great. I'm saying that, like, it's really, really important to make sure that you're always learning and refining your skills, because you are replaceable. You've seen it yourself, right? Sales reps or closers, they get dropped week in, week out, month by month, right? There's always someone who wants your position. And if you're not able to continuously be obsessed with improvement and learning and wanting to improve your skills, then you're going to be left in the dust, right? And I also liked what you said about reputation, right? Because it takes 20 years to build it and 5 minutes to kill it,
100%.
right? So, like, for example, when you gave me a closer, he came in, smashed it out of the park, right? That looks good on you. It looks good on him. Everyone's happy. Now, if anyone was to say to me, oh, is there anybody that you know in mind that could provide closers? I'd straight away say Scott, right? And that's because of my experience, and you want that to continue throughout your company and, 100%. You know, working with more partnerships and moving forward. So yeah, that's great, man. What is your vision for, like, your recruiting / training process that you have right now? Where do you want to take your business within the next 2 to 3 years? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, big vision, to be honest. I want to be the globally known sales, training and recruitment company for the AI industry, which is just, I mean, think about how big the AI industry is, think how much it's growing every year. Imagine that we are known as, like, the #1 sales recruitment firm for the AI industry. That's absolutely massive. So that's really what I'm trying to get to, again, is like, not just being #1, but like being so far ahead #1 that, like, there's not even a close second. Like I said, in terms specifically of sales recruitment for AI, we were the first people doing it. So we've got big first mover advantage. And I just want to establish ourselves as the absolute #1. There's not even a close second. In terms of many things, in terms of our marketing, sales, but also our products, and just it being known that it's the best product on the planet. So in terms of, like, reputation, again, we want to be #1 global for sales, training and recruitment for AI. That's the first thing. In terms of selfish business goals, I want to be up at above 10 million per year, which I know we can absolutely do without a doubt. If we don't get to 10 million per year, it's not because the opportunity wasn't there and we were capped. It's because of some mistake that I made, or decision that I made, some kind of shortcoming that I had, because it is absolutely going to be possible to get to 10 million per year in this gigantic industry. Then beyond that, I think that, yeah, I mean, I think that's the goal, really, is to get to 10 million per year. From there, who knows? Do we go for an exit? You know, because again, this is another thing about why I didn't just want to build like a course. I wanted to build a full-fledged recruitment company, because recruitment companies are sellable for decent multipliers as well. So I think really at the moment, I'm just tunnel vision on that goal, like 10 million per year. At the time, we decide if we want to exit, which we probably will. And then who knows what I do from that point onwards. But yeah, beyond that, I also want to help 10,000 people to make a really nice income in the AI industry. And then beyond that, I'm also actually, not a lot of people know this, but I'm actually part owner in a couple more AI businesses. So mainly AI agencies. I'm invested into 2 AI agencies. I don't really I'm more of like a consultant on that front. I don't do the day-to-day work, but I just kind of guide and steer the operation a little bit and have a piece of the pie because I'm presented with many opportunities, specifically in the AI space. I see a lot of great tech, a lot of great companies, and naturally you start building relationships with these founders. others, and there's a lot of value that I can add to them. So yeah, I'm invested in 2 great companies that I see a lot of potential with. So yeah, I kind of just want to have this, like for me, myself personally, I want to have this portfolio of AI companies, if you will. I want to have the sales training and recruitment company for AI, which is the main focus. Again, I've got these 2 other businesses that I'm part equity holder in, the more kind of AI agency models. And who knows whether I'll get involved with some more. But yeah, that's the goal really, is just keep grinding. 2-3 years, I'd love to be up at 10 million per year. The AI agency is booming as well. Have this kind of really solid portfolio of AI, establish my personal brand in the AI space as well, become known as like the AI sales guy, make a big exit, and then who knows what we do from there. Who knows?
Let's make it happen, brother.
Yeah, that's
Scott, man, you've got brilliant advice. We're going to wrap it up here. Is there anything else that you want to sort of let the viewers take away from this conversation?
I mean, there's someone
link below.
yeah. Join, sign up now.
Yeah.
I don't think so, really. I mean, there's so much I could say. But yeah, I think that we're in such an interesting time right now. There's just so much opportunity in the world. There genuinely is. In my opinion, it's AI, but I'm sure there's other things out there that provide a lot of opportunity. I think just, think big, get to work. Your bloodline's counting on you. So,
right.
So don't mess it up. But yeah, just think big, go after it, and keep learning. Even myself now, I'm like, I would never ever want to get to the position where I think to myself that I've done it and I'm not going to stop improving and learning. There's always something more to learn and improve on. So yeah, just think big, work hard, and the rest will take care of itself.
Love that, bro. Well, that's a wrap.
Thank
you for coming on, Scott.
Thank you, bro.
Appreciate you, man. Like I said, click link in the bio.
Yeah.
Or description.
Yeah.